If you like the story, you can support the author on Patreon, link is in the description.
Chapter 61, Uchiha vs Hyuga Part 2. Looking at the two girls on the stage, Matatabi mumbled. They are trained quite a lot for their age. Kokuo nodded and added, yeah, that Byakugan girl seems to have gone through some gruesome training. But she won't be able to win like this. Hearing Matatabi's comment, Kokuo did not refute her, instead she nodded in agreement. Kokuo knew she was right, as they both have observed something about this girl which Mikoto did not notice at first, but now even she realized that she is not attacking back. Mikoto thought in shock as realization struck her like thunder. At first she thought the girl was mocking her by not using her full strength, but as the battle went on she realized that the girl would back away after a moment of hesitation whenever there was an opening in her defense. This girl does not have the will to injure someone. Matatabi commented, looking at Hanami, who was now sweating a little. Mikoto also realized that she might be able to win like this, and she charged ahead. When Hanami was about to defend her attack, Mikoto launched another attack, dropping all of her intentions to defend herself. Hanami was caught off guard with this bold action. She hurriedly tried to draw her hands back, which was all Mikoto needed to punch her in the chest. Hanami fell to the ground and Mikoto won the match, yet there was not a sigh of happiness on her face when she looked at her opponent. Mikoto won. Form sign of reconciliation. Mikoto followed the instructions, and after that she helped Hanami get up. After helping her up, she took the girl to a deserted corner to confront her. What happened, Mikoto-san? Hanami asked in a low voice as she looked at the girl with a shy look on her face. Mikoto looked back at her with a complicated look on her face. Why? Why? Hanami asked back in a puzzled voice. Why did you not attack back? You could have won the match easily, but you only defeated yourself. Are you looking down on me, or did you think you will injure me with mere taijutsu attacks? Mikoto's voice grew louder and louder, that it even attracted the attention of Akira, who could hear farther with his hearing, but he chose not to interfere in this matter. Hanami, hearing the tone of the girl in front of her, trembled a little. She clenched her robes and looked down. She could not reply back. She wanted to speak, but no words left her mouth. Mikoto sighed, seeing the state of the girl in front of her. Do you not want to fight? Hearing the question, Hanami shook her head rapidly. It's not that she did not want to fight. How can she not fight, being the part of the main Hyuga clan? Do you not want to injure someone? Mikoto asked again, seeing the girl denying her claims. Hanami trembled once again and nodded slowly. Ha! Mikoto exhaled sharply, causing Hanami to flinch. Are you an idiot? If you fight, you have to injure your opponent, and it takes more than a few hits to injure me. Hanami was shocked hearing those words. She did not even have the time to recover before Mikoto continued, you better not hold back in the next fight, or I will force you to keep fighting. Keep that in mind, Hyuga. After saying her piece, Mikoto walked back. Hanami stood there still in shock, and after some time she walked back to her position. Tsukimi was also able to hear their discussion from afar, and yet did not even spare them a glance. He was being pestered by the boy sitting next to him. Suddenly he heard a familiar name being called by the teacher. Next is Haruki, Otsutsuki and Mabuki. Matatabi walked forward under everyone's gaze and came face to face with a blonde-haired girl. She had cold green eyes which were trying to bore a hole in Matatabi's body. Matatabi raised her eyebrow at the unusual hatred she was receiving. You seem to have something to say. Matatabi asked without any expression on her face. Hearing her question, Mabuki gritted her teeth before asking a question. What is your relationship with Akiyoko-kun? Hearing the way Mabuki was addressing Tsukimi, Matatabi raised her eyebrows. Akiyoko-kun? You are speaking like you know my future husband. Those words struck not only her but everyone's heart. They looked at her with a pale face. Seeing the look of despair in their eyes seemed to trigger something inside Matatabi as she smirked and her eyes curved in a crescent moon-like shape. Fufu, did that shock you? Matatabi laughed a little before continuing in a graceful manner. She didn't even take these girls as a challenge. Not a single girl seems to pose a threat to them. Even Kayasami is my dear's finance. The girl turned to look at the silent girl in the corner with a pale look on their face, but to their surprise she was not there. They scanned the area to find her leaning on Tsukimi's shoulder with her eyes closed. Matatabi's eyes turned cold seeing how Kokuo was taking advantage of the situation. Akira could have stopped this drama, but he knew better than to interfere between a female squabble. Instead he looked at the masked boy with a look of admiration in his eyes. Chapter 62, Matatabi is a sadist. Cough. Although Akira did not want to interfere in this matter, he did not want to waste the time all day, so he coughed to gain everyone's attention. "We don't have all day for this, you can settle these things after the class." Ignoring the cold eyes he was getting from Matatabi, he continued. "Get ready." Despite feeling the urge to send a tailed beast bomb at Kokuo, Matatabi redirected her attention towards the blonde woman looking at her like she stole her husband. Snorting, she took a battle stance, which was a relaxed posture. She looked at her opponent with contempt and formed the seal of confrontation. On the other hand, when Mabuki saw her opponent mocking her, she couldn't take it anymore and her switch flipped. She also formed the seal and looked at the teacher to announce the start. Akira sighed seeing them act like this and announced, "Begin." Mabuki did not even let the instructor finish his words and charged at Matatabi at full speed. Her speed was quite astonishing for someone her age. Matatabi smirked at her speed. All she saw was a toddler staggering her way towards her. This speed was nothing worth mentioning in front of one of the 9-tailed beasts. The world never came to know about the 10th beast except a select few. Mabuki, seeing no response from her opponent except a smirk, got even more annoyed. She kicked using her right leg with all of her strength and slammed it towards her head. With a slight moment, Matatabi dodged the attack and slapped her opponent. That's right, she slapped her opponent as a counter-attack. Mabuki was too stunned to even move, let alone speak. She blankly stared in the direction her face was turned after the slap hit her cheeks. Asterisk smack. Asterisk. Matatabi did not wait for her to regain her bearing and slapped again. "What are daydreaming about? Continue attacking or I might end this match," finding it boring. Matatabi's playful voice pulled her to reality. She touched the cheeks where she was just slapped and looked at the girl who slapped her. "You." Mabuki mumbled something under the breath which was heard by her opponent, but she chose to play along. "Hey? Speak clearly. I will kill you, you bitch." Mabuki yelled on top of her lungs and charged at Matatabi, attacking her with one kick after another. All of them were aiming at her head of upper body. Matatabi smirked with amusement as she thought, "Ah, I might get addicted to this. The look on her face makes me want to play with her even more." If her opponent had heard thoughts, she would have died due to anger. On the side, Minato looked at the girl leaning against Tsukimi with curious eyes and asked, "Are you guys really engaged?" He couldn't contain his curiosity and asked, to which he got a nod from the golden-haired boy. "Wow, aren't you too young to be engaged?" "No. We love each other, so we got engaged." Tsukimi replied without taking his eyes off Kokuo and caressed her back. Kokuo on the other hand enjoyed the treatment with her eyes closed. He turned his attention to watch Matatabi fight, and Minato was shocked seeing how fast Matatabi was able to easily dodge Mabuki's attack. As they watched, the Minato got more and more astonished. "How are you all this strong?" he couldn't help but ask. He had seen Tsukimi's match. It was shocking to see the boy he had to use a few moves to defeat was defeated so easily, and now this. He couldn't help but look in Kokuo's direction, wondering if this docile girl was a hidden monster, but shook his head. How could such a silent and cute girl be ruthless? As if seeing through his thoughts, Tsukimi smirked under his mask. He couldn't help but laugh in his mind. To him, Kokuo was more dangerous than Matatabi. She was like a silent ocean all the time, but when someone dared to stir her, she could be even more ferocious than thunderstorms or any natural disasters. "Well, we train regularly. We have been training most of the times and we have quite a sturdy body." Tsukimi did not lie when he said this. Ever since the 9 beasts and him came to gain consciousness, they have been training for survival with occasional breaks. He wanted to give this period of time as a way for them to relax, and he was ready to shoulder all the responsibilities by himself. "After all, I am the big brother," Tsukimi thought with a slight smile. He focused his attention back on the fight. Matatabi looked at the girl gasping for breath while looking at her with hatred and fear in her eyes. Matatabi's eyes were filled with boredom and indifference. "Well, that was a bummer," she mumbled under breath. At first she liked the feeling of beating and torturing, but soon she got bored of it and decided to end the match. "Let's end this match, I am getting bored." As soon as she announced that, Matatabi disappeared and appeared behind Mabuki and placed her hand behind her neck, which sent shivers down Mabuki's spine. Akira narrowed his eyes a little before announcing, "Winner is Haruki Otsutsuki." Without giving the girl a second glance, Matatabi walked back towards Tsukimi. Mabuki looked at the ground with her fist clenched. "I will definitely pay you back." Akira looked at her for a second before shaking his head and continued the training. Chapter 63, I Quit. Matatabi walked to the 3 kids sitting in a desolate corner and glared at Kokuo. Kokuo opened her eyes to look back in her eyes and closed them again. Tick. A vein popped on Matatabi's forehead seeing her reaction. This annoying bee. Before she could start cursing Kokuo in her mind, Tsukimi pulled her to sit beside him. Minato showed an awkward smile after seeing their interaction. Matatabi was initially surprised but then followed Kokuo's action with a smile on her face. This scene shocked not only Minato but also the whole class. The girl know this demon who was just brutally torturing someone is now smiling like a girl in love. The boys were biting their lips in frustration while the girls looked at both the girls with jealousy. Mikoto looked at the trio with slight amusement before turning her attention away. On the other hand, Hanami blushed while looking in their direction before looking away. Akira looked at his students and his lips twitched. Sighing, he called the next pair. Otsutsuki Asami and Inyazuka Tsum. A girl with wild black hair walked forward while looking at her white-haired opponent with a crazed look in her eyes. She could feel her instincts flaring looking at the three new students that joined their class. She wanted to just attack them right there and then, but something told her that she would die without even being able to take a breath. Tsukimi looked at Tsum for a moment before losing his interest. What a wild animal! That was the only thing he could think of seeing the unrestrained girl. Kokuo opened her eyes lazily hearing her name. She looked at Tsum and then at Tsukimi, then she once again looked at Tsum before finally turning her face towards the teacher as she spoke slowly. I quit. Silence. Whoosh. A silence dawned in the area hearing her response. Of all the ways they thought this match would go, they did not think it would go like this. Everyone felt like pulling their hair in frustration and Kokuo just closed her eyes before going back to her previous position. Tsukimi, who already knew things might turn out like this, shook his head. Minato just looked at the girl with his mouth open. Akira was the first to come out of his shock and announced. Since the opponent has backed down, Inyazuka Tsum wins by default. Wait. Before he could finish, Tsum, who just came out of her shock, interrupted him. She turned to face her opponent and exclaimed. You! Why are you giving up? Do you think I am too weak to face you? She yelled at her with anger and frustration apparent on her face. Seeing that the girl did not even open her eyes and continued to ignore her, Tsum charged at her directly. Akira narrowed his eyes and was about to move. You damn bitch! Listen to! Swoosh! Clank! Her voice was interrupted with the sound of air piercing and metal clashing. She noticed the back of their teacher in front of her and a kunai embedded in the ground. Before she could make out what was happening, their teacher spoke up. Akiyoko-kun, it's not good to attack your fellow classmate. Tsukimi ignored his words and looked at the girl instead. His chilling words reached her ears. Know your place, you dog. This is just a warning if you or anyone dared to disrespect them. I won't hold them back from killing you but will kill you myself. He threw an open threat looking at the girl trembling like a scared puppy, his gaze boring in her body as she looked down in fear. Akira narrowed his eyes further hearing his words and saw something that he ignored first. He just realized that Tsukimi was holding Matatabi's hand who was about to charge ahead. Her eyes were laced with killing intent. Matatabi may fight Kokuo for Tsukimi's affection but their bond as a family was stronger than anything in the world. If someone dared to speak bad about their family members they won't sit back and listen even if it's just a human child. Akira realized that he did not even notice her till now. He looked at Tsukimi with scanning eyes before looking back at Tsum. She was being nudged by her puppy who came rushing towards her during the confrontation. Inyazuka Tsum, go back to the rest of your class. I will report this matter to Hokage-sama and he will deal with it. Leaving these words he walked back towards his initial position. We will be ending the class here. You all are dismissed. Go back to your classes. The students whose turn had yet to come got elated that they won't have to fight anymore. Everyone walked back to the classes while talking among themselves and the day continued. Akira made his way towards the Hokage office where he was stopped by the receptionist. Teacher Akira, shouldn't you be in your class teaching at this moment? Hearing the interrogating tone of the woman in front of him, Akira scratched the back of his head and replied. Something happened in the class, I have to inform Hokage-sama it's related to the new students he sent to academy today. His words caused the woman to raise an eyebrow in return. They are already causing trouble? She asked back with a shocked expression but just Akira shook his head. Nodding, the woman got up and walked towards the office assigned to Hokage. Wait here, I will inform Hokage-sama. Saying those words the woman disappeared and came back after a few moments. She looked at Akira standing in the same position and announced. Hokage-sama has agreed to meet you, you can go inside directly. Chapter 64, An Unknown Threat. Hokage-sama has agreed to meet you, you can go inside directly. Without wasting any time, Akira went towards the office room. Arriving in front of the door, he knocked on it and waited for an answer. After a few seconds, an aged voice came from inside the room. Come inside, Akira-kun. Hearing the permission to enter, he walked in and directly kneeled in front of the middle-aged man on one knee. Hokage-sama. He bowed in respect, which caused a glint of light to flash through Hiruzen's eyes. He looked at the man and asked, "Tell me what happened at the academy." While speaking, he casted a short glance at the orb placed on his table before looking back. He already knew what happened in the academy as he was keeping an eye on the students. He was curious about the kids recommended by the wife of the first Hokage. It was like this. Unknown to everything, Akira recounted the entire situation that happened in the training grounds. After he finished speaking, he looked back at the Hokage waiting for his words. I see. Taking a puff out of his smoke pipe, Hiruzen exhaled after a short pause. He looked at the Chunin teacher in front of him and spoke up. No need to interfere for now. I think it would be fine for a short period of time, but if such problems arise again, bring them here, I will talk to them. Hearing his orders, the teacher was puzzled but did not complain too much and accepted them without any hesitation. After he left the room, Akira made his way towards the academy and Hiruzen activated his orb to observe the situation in Konoha. His mind still thought of the scene he saw in the academy. I wonder if they are hiding something. Let's continue to observe them for a while. Days and months, during this time nothing major happened. He stopped going to the classes and sent his clone instead. There was no point going there. He did not care about what they taught in the class, nor did he care about the kids in the class. They were annoying for him. He could somehow bear Minato, who took the hint that he did not like talking and kept his talk to bare minimum. During these months, Noeke tried to get closer to Kokuo and Matatabi, but he was coldly rejected by them on the stop. Later, when he heard that the girls were engaged to me, he did not come out of the room for a few days. After a short period of time, Tsukimi even stopped sending his clone to the academy because he still got the memories from it and instead casted his illusion on the whole village to make them believe he was in the class. Even after all this time, Tsukimi did not find any good potential to take in a disciple. Why are you so fixated on taking someone as a disciple? Sitting on top of the Hokage monument, Tsukimi was looking at the whole village when he suddenly heard an ethereal voice calling out to him. It was a voice familiar to him, yet he hadn't heard it in a long time. You finally decided to talk to me? Meure. Tsukimi replied with a slight smile on his face as he closed his eyes. Humph. Who was the one who ignored me and spent his time with other women? Her cold voice filled with blame and aggression echoed inside his heart. He felt a little guilty for enjoying his time while not talking to her, and yet she was ready to talk to him. He sighed and replied. I am sorry, I promise, I will never do it again, and if you ever feel like talking you can always talk to me as well. Hearing those genuine words seemed to work as she replied. This is the last time, you better talk to me or you won't ever hear my voice. Bringing the sword out to his sword realm, Tsukimi caressed it with care and love in his eyes. Now answer what I just asked. Suppressing a slight moan, Meure decided to go back to the topic which she just asked. Indeed, I was in a slight hurry. A few years ago something happened. I suddenly received an urgent message from someone. His words made the sword spirit listen to him with full concentration. An unknown entity wanted to interfere in this world. Otsutsuki clan? She asked with uncertainty, but Tsukimi shook his head and added, that person is even more powerful than the Otsutsuki clan head or even the whole clan combined. There is such a powerful person in this galaxy. Tsukimi shook his head once again. He is not from here. The revelation shocked the sword spirit to the core. She did not understand why someone so powerful would be interested in their galaxy. As if seeing through her thoughts, Tsukimi continued to explain what was happening. That entity, he was someone who stumbled upon this galaxy by chance, and since it is a new galaxy, that person wants to take control over it. As Meure listened quietly, Tsukimi continued his explanation. There are many things involved, but the gist is that he cannot interfere or enter this galaxy himself, or so I am told. Chapter 65, Tsukimi has weak moments too. Tsukimi's words were not without evidence. The person who contacted him was none other than the one who created this galaxy. He, himself, or the alternate version of him who reincarnated him into his ideal world. Tsukimi sighed as he remembered what that person said. I placed a restriction so that no person powerful that the Otsutsuki clan could interfere in that galaxy, and that is all I will do. I will not interfere in your battles. This is your life, you are responsible for all of your decisions and results. Even death. Tsukimi felt that his words were reasonable, he couldn't just always rely on others to save himself. What's the point of worrying if he cannot interfere? Mayure asked again, not realizing why he was in such a hurry if that person cannot interfere. If he cannot interfere, it doesn't mean he couldn't ask others to interfere. Which is why I want to nurture a human to counter whatever that person is planning. Realization dawned on her, but something bugged her a little. Why won't you fight against him yourself? Tsukimi's face adorned a guilty look hearing those words. He took a deep breath before speaking. I fear a little. A small chuckle escaped his mouth. Hearing those words, Mayure was shocked. He who was always fearless and destroyed many planets was now showing such a face. She felt terrible at the moment. She cursed that she did not have the body to comfort him with a hug or even provide any kind of warmth. Now my life is not my own, how can I not fear a little? I have soul bonds that are linked to my wives. Although it's lovely to have it, I don't want them to die because of my reckless decisions. I would rather have an innocent person die than them because of my own ego. He looked at the sword and with a fragile look, he asked, does that make me a coward or trash? His words caused the sword to tremble. How much she despised herself for being unable to a human form is something only she understands. Before she could speak, 2 pairs of arms enveloped Tsukimi from the sides. You aren't a coward, dear. Tsukimi trembled a little hearing Kokuo's voice. Her soothing voice reached the depths of his heart, providing his comfort and warmth. For the first time, Mayure did not feel any negative emotions towards other women getting closer to him, instead she was the one who called them here. She was connected to his soul, which was linked to their soul, and this caused her to send a message through that channel and ask them to come here. They just teleport using the Flying Thunder God technique that Tsukimi taught them before. They had already marked them because their level was not as high as his own. Yet, if you don't even care for anything but your ego, I would have never fallen for you, brother. Matatabi added while planting a kiss on his cheeks. It doesn't matter to us if we die, as long as we are with you at the moment of our death it would be worth it. Kokuo spoke again, and the look in Matatabi's eyes declared that she agreed with her. Tsukimi smiled a little hearing those words and held their arm. Before he could speak, Tsukimi sensed someone else coming in their direction. You are here, I was looking for you all over the village. A sharp feminine voice caught their attention as a blonde woman walked. Her hair was tied in a ponytail and there was a restrained wild look in her eyes. It was none other than Tsunade. What can I do for you? Tsukimi asked plainly, which caused an annoyed expression to appear on her face. Brat, at least show me some respect. She wanted to punch him so much but remembered that she would be in trouble if her grandmother found out. Oh, I would do that when you stop cheating in our fights. A grin appeared on Tsukimi's face as he mentioned her cheating, which caused Tsunade's face to flush. He was telling the truth. During these months Tsunade tried to challenge him many times, saying she would use power of similar level and always ended up using more power to overwhelm him. Yet Tsukimi would always come out unscathed. As a result, she faces an angry grandmother later. TCH, what a waste of a handsome face. Tsunade clicked her tongue in annoyance and turned back to hide her blushing face. Matatabi and Kokuo narrowed their eyes seeing her look. Grandmother is calling you, a guest is arriving. You need to be present. She added before walking away. Tsukimi realized what was happening and decided to ignore it and focused his senses on the Senju compound. His face returned back to normal as he looked at the 2 girls looking at him with a worried gaze. Don't worry about it. Instead of worrying about the unknown, I will focus on improving myself, and it seems age has dulled me a little. He looked in the direction of the academy and added, it seems I need to learn a lot even now. Feeling the weight lifting off of him, Tsukimi smiled without restraints and exclaimed. Let's go back and meet the princess of Uzumaki clan. Hearing his words, the girls were relieved and chose to believe in him. They knew he wouldn't let something like this get to him. He always finds a way. Thinking of this, they followed him back to the Senju compound and Mayure went back inside Tsukimi. Chapter 66, Babysitting in Uzumaki. Arriving at the gates of the Senju compound, Tsukimi could hear a bustling sound coming from the hall. During these months he talked with Mito quite a few times and she also came to treat him very well. They would occasionally eat with the 3 of them and talk a little. Matatabi and Kokuo also would occasionally talk with the others, but they would promptly ignore any attempts Nawaka made to start a conversation with them. After a while Nawaka gave up and continued to act like usual. When they walked inside the hall, they saw a scene that was not unusual in this family. Tsunade was tackling a little girl in a hug while Mito laughed at their interaction. Nawaki also looked at the girl with a curious expression. Their appearance had already caught Mito's attention, but she did not say anything, just looked at them and smiled. Tsukimi walked towards her while turning to look at the Uzumaki clan's princess. Her red hair matched Mito's in her prime. She had a childish face adorned with beautiful eyes. Matatabi and Kokuo also observed the red-haired girl quietly for a moment before ignoring her. "Where were you?" Mito asked, pulling Tsukimi's attention towards her. He looked at her and answered. "I just wanted to take a breather. Had some things on my mind." Tsukimi replied vaguely. Hearing the talk, Kushina's eyes finally fell on the new guests inside the room. She was surprised by their beautiful appearance and got tranced for a moment. She shook her head to come out of the trance and looked at the boy who had his face covered in a mask with a weird look on her face. She did not understand why someone would cover their face if they were not Anbu ninja. Anbu ninja were a special assassin and tactical squad under the direct control of the Hokage, and they did all the dirty work from him. Missions like assassination and silencing someone are done by them. Due to the nature of their work, their identities were kept secret by using a mask and a fake name. She, being the princess of the Uzumaki clan, had some surface information about the Anbu team. She looked at Tsukimi and the girls with curiosity. Seeing the look on her face, Mito smiled and introduced them. "She is the granddaughter of my brother, Kushina Uzumaki." Tsukimi nodded, hearing the introduction as Mito continued. "This boy here is Akihiko. The two girls behind him are Asami and Haruki respectively. Tsunade saved them during the previous war and they are living with us now." "Nice to meet you, I am Uzumaki Kushina Datebane." A small blush appeared on her face as she realized what she had done and looked at the boy waiting for a weird reaction. Tsukimi did not say anything and just nodded in return. He was busy looking at her body at the moment. It's not as bad as it sounds. He was looking at the vitality that her body was carrying. There was so much of it inside of her. No wonder she is chosen as a host. Tsukimi finally broke the silence and replied. "Nice to meet you, I am Otsutsuki Tsukimi. These are my sisters Asami and Haruki." Pointing at his back, he introduced the girls as well. Kokuo and Matatabi looked at the girl with curiosity and nodded as a greeting. Kushina's eyes sparkled seeing them and she walked towards them and exclaimed. "Wow, you both are really pretty. I have never seen anyone more beautiful than you, Datebane." She once again blushed at her tick marks. She was afraid of people of Konoha judging her because of the way she speaks, but when she saw no one here made fun of her or laughed, a genuine smile blossomed on her face. Matatabi patted Kushina's head and replied, "Thanks for the compliment, little girl." Her words confused everyone in the room including Kushina as she asked. "Aren't you the same age as me?" Realizing that she had a slip of tongue, Matatabi replied quickly with a smirk on her face. "Still, you are smaller than me." Matatabi even subconsciously puffed her breasts out as she spoke. Besides that, even Kushina's height was shorter than her. Kushina pouted hearing those words while Kokuo looked at her with a chilling gaze from the corner of her eye. "Now don't tease my grandniece. She is the granddaughter of my brother." Mito interjected with a chuckle and continued. "She will be joining the Ninja Academy with all of you from tomorrow onwards and I want you three to take care of her." Tsukimi raised his eyebrows in response and waited for Mito to continue. "She is an Uzumaki and kids in the academy might treat her like an outsider. If you three can get along with her, it will help her settle down." Kushina lowered her head as Mito spoke. She really wanted to go to the academy, but she was also afraid of being treated as an outsider. She feared that Tsukimi might reject that offer too, but then suddenly she heard a clear voice that cleared all of her suspicions. "It's fine, isn't it? After all, you are letting us stay here. We can do this much, but do mind that we won't be babysitting her." Tsunade frowned hearing those words and Mito patiently waited for the boy to continue. Even Kushina was furious hearing them speak in a way about her and wanted to decline, but the next words from the boy made her shut up. "Even though she won't get targeted when she is with us, what about when she is not? She cannot always escape." Chapter 67, Meeting Otsutsuki members after a long time. Tsukimi knew the nature of kids in the academy and they always tried to pick on something or someone they didn't like. Sooner or later it would be Kushina's turn. Mito understood the meaning of his words and nodded. "Don't worry about that, I will be personally training her." Hearing that declaration, not only Tsunade but Kushina was also surprised. Noeka looked at his grandmother with complicated emotions and then turned to look at the girl with slight envy. During these months he had tried to make his grandmother teach him, but she always refused, but now she is agreeing to teach a new girl who just came. Mita easily felt those changes in Noeka with her mind-eye Kagura and sighed. "You too, Noeka. I will be teaching you as well, so be sure to be prepared for gruesome training." Hearing those words, Noeka did not back down but instead he smiled wildly and nodded. I am ready to train to death, grandmother. Boom. Tsunade slammed her fist in Nowake's stomach, sending him flying back into the wall. Mito also smiled sweetly in his direction without having any intentions of stopping Tsunade. It seems my little brother is eager to train, let me train you. She dragged Nowake with his leg out of the room towards the training room. She did not even care about the fact that Nowake was bleeding from his mouth. Tsukimi promptly ignored the whole scene as if nothing happened. The next day, just as Tsukimi predicted happened, as soon as Kushina was introduced to the class, everyone started speaking bad about her red hair. Tsukimi noticed that the ones who were mostly saying those things were all children of civilians. Some of the noble family kids being children joined in on the fun to bully others, but most of them stayed quiet. Tsukimi did not interfere at first. He wanted Kushina to understand these people first before making a move. But he forgot that Minato was different from him, and he did exactly what he did in the anime. He got up and interrupted the introduction while claiming that he will Hokage as well. Tsukimi rolled his eyes when he felt someone's gaze lingering in the air. He could tell that Hiruzen wanted to see the scene of Kushina's introduction just like he kept an eye on him during his first day at the academy. Now that Minato declared his intentions of becoming Hokage along with his performance in the academy, he knew it won't be long before Hiruzen would start to nurture. The days returned to normal, but Tsukimi decided to not delay things any longer. Standing under the moonlight on the Hokage monument, Tsukimi looked at the beautiful moon. More precisely, his eyes landed on the huge palace on the moon. If I cannot kill Jijin right now, there are other Otsutsukis I can use. Tsukimi first did not go after Tonari because he was too weak to nurture his soul, but he decided to use his soul for something else. His figure suddenly disappeared from the stone statue and appeared in a majestic room that was glowing in cool yet dim lights. He looked around and his eyes landed on the shocked middle-aged Otsutsuki on the throne. He was trying to keep a straight face but failed to do so. I did not even sense any fluctuations in space. He trembled a little as he gazed upon the being in front of him with his Byakugan eyes. What is this feeling of oppression? He was the current leader of the branch Otsutsuki clan, the descendant of Hamura Otsutsuki. When Hamura was finished sealing his mother along with his mother, he decided to create a branch family for the Otsutsuki clan on the moon. Hamura died due to old age, leaving a Tensagan vessel which was intended to guard the earth. It was being nurtured by the Byakugan of the family members there. As the time passed by, his descendants misinterpreted his words, thinking he wanted to destroy the earth to punish humans for the misuse of chakra. So Hamura is already dead. Tsukimi's emotionless words echoed in the hall. As soon as he arrived in the room, Tsukimi scanned the whole moon. He could already sense all the members of the clan on the moon. He was quite surprised by how low their numbers were. Who are you? How dare you barge into Otsutsuki clan territory? Tsukimi finally turned his attention towards the middle-aged man who had similar characteristics of the Otsutsuki family. He raised his eyebrows, thinking, where did the old man suddenly get his courage from? Scanning the moon one more time, he found a strange device placed on the moon. He could see several lower members of the family were nourishing the device with their Byakugan. It was the energy vessel. Chapter 68, What do you think about humans? Does your courage come from that device Hamura made? Tsukimi spoke in a playful tone. The middle-aged man froze in fear hearing those words. It was clear that Tsukimi hit the nail with his guess. Seeing how you are reacting, I will take that as a yes. But do you know that device is no different than trash in my eyes? Tsukimi's cold voice rang behind the man. He had already appeared behind him in an instant. This action intensified the fear in the man's heart. Where did this monster come from? You must be thinking who I am, right? Tsukimi once again disappeared and appeared directly in front of him, but this time something was different. This time all of Tsukimi's eyes were open, even the Rein Sharingan. Thud. Seeing that the man fell to his knees. It was the innate oppression of the eyes that made him kneel on the ground. Aira, already on your knees? Tsukimi chuckled a little and turned his back towards the man. With a wave of his hand, several flashed appeared in the room. After the lights died down, several figures of the clan looked at each other with confusion on their faces when they saw their clan head kneeling. Their expression turned weird, and it got worse when they saw him casting a fearful glance at the young-looking man in front of them. It seems Hamura failed just like his older brother. His casual comment injured several fresh bloods in the clan. How dare you speak about our ancestor like that? Who do you think you are to insult our god? One after another people started throwing their curses at Tsukimi. Hearing those words, Tsukimi's eyes flashed with a chilling glint as a smirk tugged at his face. Without saying anything, he leaped into the air, and in the middle of the air, his figure suddenly turned into something that sent chills deep down everyone's spine. One of the elders couldn't contain himself and yelled in fear. He is the Ten Tails. Tsukimi had enough of hearing the arrogant words of the Otsutsukis. Their nature reminded him of the time when he was in the real Otsutsuki clan. Just like him, all the Ten Tails were held captive in the clan. Whenever they were needed, they would be summoned and given to the members of the clan to reap a planet, and the process keeps repeating until the Ten Tails shows the sign of gaining intelligence and harming the clan. They knew if they let a ten-tailed beast gain intelligence, that would be the end of their clan. Even a juvenile beast can destroy a low-level word, and their power is basically random spray attacks, but imagine if a fully adult beast like Tsukimi gains intelligence and they decides to retaliate. What's worse is that they have full control over their powers. Even the thought of such a scenario scared the Otsutsuki clan. That is why they always absorb a beast whenever they are close to reaching the state of maturity. This treatment was not different for Tsukimi. He also had to face all these things, and the overbearing and arrogant nature of people disgusted him to the core. Looking over the whole clan in front of him like they were nothing but mere ants, Tsukimi in his original fox form exclaimed. You are nothing but a mere mixed breed of those puny celestial beings, yet you dare to be so arrogant. Tsukimi's cold voice sent shivers down everyone's spine. They did not even dare to breathe in front of the ten-tailed fox. Just like their clan head, all of them fell to their knees. How did the Ten Tails get a human form, let alone intelligence? The clan head mumbled under his breath, but his words were still heard by Tsukimi. You don't need to care about that. Changing back to his human form, Tsumiki activated his cloak form. His clothes changed from black loose robes, they changed to white robes with megatamas all over them, and they formed a weird pattern that seemed like a seal. Tsukimi's figure glowed in red energy, which made his appearance look ethereal. The sheer presence of the being in front of them made all of the clan members' hearts tremble. They gulped down in fear as they saw him taking a seat on the clan head's seat. Tell me, what was the task Homura gave you people before his death? Tsukimi leaned his head on his fist and asked with a plain tone. The clan head gritted his teeth and chose to answer truthfully. Ancestors told us to look over humans so that they do not misuse the chakra. His words caused several people among the clan members to frown, while the rest had their eyes filled with appreciation and reverence. Their reaction did not escape his eyes, but he chose to ignore them and continued. So what do you think about those humans? Chapter 69, How amusing. The sheer presence of the being in front of them made all of the clan members' hearts tremble. They gulped down in fear as they saw him taking a seat on the clan head's seat. Tell me, what was the task Homura gave you people before his death? Tsukimi leaned his head on his fist and asked with a plain tone. The clan head gritted his teeth and chose to answer truthfully. Ancestors told us to look over humans so that they do not misuse the chakra. His words caused several people among the clan members to frown, while the rest had their eyes filled with appreciation and reverence. Their reaction did not escape his eyes, but he chose to ignore them and continued. So what do you think about those humans? There was a slight disgust in his tone, which the clan head noticed. Hearing that, he sighed in relief. At first he thought that the tailed beast got attached to the human and came here to kill them, knowing they were going to launch an attack against the humans, but it seems he was worrying for nothing. They are nothing but leeches. Even after the ancestor bestowed them such a brilliant gift as chakra, they chose to fight instead and rage wars against each other. This is absolutely unacceptable, and this should not be tolerated. The man looked at Tsukimi with a firm look in his eyes and exclaimed. This is clearly disrespectful to our ancestors. Tsukimi snorted inwardly when they called the piece of his chakra as the gift from their ancestor, but seeing the unshakable reverence and devotion to Homura, Tsukimi was baffled and thought in disgust. These old men and their brainwashing techniques. He was even tempted to kill Hiruzen right now. Tsukimi's eyes scanned through the entire room and he saw similar emotions in everyone's eyes. But their beliefs seemed to be different. He looked at the clansmen who were looking at the clan head with hatred and anger. They were holding themselves back with their clenched fist. Seeing this, Tsukimi spoke one again, asking. Does everyone among you think the same? The response he got was a series of nod from the rows of people, while the rest had their heads low. No one dared to speak under the overwhelming pressure that dawned on them. It seems many of you think differently. Tsukimi continued in his playful tone, and his words caused the clan head to look at them in anger. You all dare to defy the will of the ancestor. The clan head yelled, while the rest of the people looked at him with anger. One of the old men gritted his teeth and got up. Seeing this scene, Tsukimi secretly lowered the pressure on him slowly, which no one seemed to notice. While continuing to do so, he watched the drama unfold with amusement. The clan head also looked at the old man and his expression turned grim. This was one of the oldest members of the clan. He had seen their ancestor with his eyes when he was just a kid, and Homura was very old. You think that's what the ancestor wanted us to do? Don't delude yourself into thinking that what you think is ancestors' words. He wanted us to watch over Earth and protect it from outside harm. The old man yelled with all of his energy and looked at the middle-aged clan head with bloodshot eyes. How amusing, Tsukimi interjected before the thing escalated further. He got up from the throne and looked at the clan head, who instantly got tensed and secretly tried to gain control over the energy vessel. Tsukimi smirked and ignored the man and turned towards the people kneeling on the floor. He took his pressure back, which caused them to sigh in relief, yet they were confused at the same time, and even the clan head got puzzled by his action. His next words cleared their confusion. Now those who believe this snotty man's words go and stand behind him while the others stand behind that old man. Tsukimi ordered while pointing at the two men who were arguing just now. They were hesitating while a young man had enough and yelled, "Why do we have to do everything he is saying, clan he?" Before his words could be completed, a ball-sized object flew in the air, followed by a heavy noise of something falling. Thud. Yar yar, why can't you just follow my words? Tsukimi's words echoed in the silent hall. Fear gripped everyone's heart as they saw the head of the young man who just spoke falling. Their faces turned pale when they realized Tsukimi was already beside the headless body, and there was a beautiful black sword in his hands. There was a smile on his face that made him look even more terrifying in their eyes. Tsukimi, on the other hand, was smiling because of the boost in soul he felt. Mayure was begrudgingly dividing the boost in 4 equal parts as per Tsukimi's instruction. The first part was to increase Tsukimi's soul, the other parts were for his wives, including herself. He wanted her to nourish herself too. She tried to decline as it would reduce the amount of soul power he would get, but all she got was the silent treatment, and she could not bear him ignoring her, so she had to eventually accept his demands. The clan head trembled a little and further increased the speed at which he connected to the energy vessel. He could remotely gain access to the device while harnessing its power, but he needed time for that. "Now hurry up, boys and girls," Tsukimi spoke once again, coming out of his trance-like state. Having no choice, everyone followed his words and chose their sides. Seeing that exactly half of the members chose each side, he was a little weirded out, but he shrugged it in the end. Chapter 70, Domineering 10 Tails. "Now hurry up, boys and girls," Tsukimi spoke once again, coming out of his trance-like state. Having no choice, everyone followed his words and chose their sides. Seeing that exactly half of the members chose each side, he was a little weirded out, but he shrugged it in the end. "Now that you are finally listening, let me tell you how much of an idiot you people are." Tsukimi spoke while waving his sword left to right. "Maybe it's the Otsutsuki genes." He mumbled the last part, but it did not escape anyone's ears, causing their eyes to flinch. "Meh, who cares? What Hamura wanted you people to do was to protect the earth from the real main Otsutsuki, so that they won't destroy the earth like they originally intended." A look of horror appeared in their eyes hearing Tsukimi's words. "But those two idiots have to give birth to descendants like themselves." Tsukimi looked at the moon surface below his feet and grumbled. "This is what happens when you choose idiot humans and give birth to his idiot kids." One of the senior clan members could not help but clench his fist and ask in frustration, "How would you know what our ancestors wanted?" He was angry that this beast suddenly appeared and started insulting them. He could not take it anymore. See, this is what I mean, idiots. Me, the being who is older than Otsutsuki Kagaya, won't know what mere brats wanted? How laughable." Tsukimi replied in disgust. He activated his clock mode and his chilling voice made their heart tremble in fear. "Since you have already chosen your paths, I have to cleanse you all so that me and my family's time is not disturbed." Tsukimi raised his sword and pointed towards the rest of the people standing behind the clan head. The clan head himself had an ugly face hearing Tsukimi's announcement, but he suddenly sensed something which caused a grin to appear. Suddenly his whole figure enveloped in a green cloak as he yelled, "Die, you beast!" Tsukimi looked at him with a lazy expression in his fox-like eyes, and his figure disappeared before reappearing. The clan head was shocked that he couldn't keep up with the speed of the beast even after getting the power from the energy vessel. Tsukimi appeared in front of the people who had decided to follow the clan head. He moved and started decapitating them. With each move of the sword, a head flew in the air. The clan head turned hearing the screams of his people, and a look of horror appeared on his face when he saw Tsukimi standing in between the pile of the bodies of his people. Tsukimi's figure was covered in blood, his golden hair was dyed in red shade, and he looked at the sky with his eyes closed. He broke from his thoughts and decided to charge at the beast, but suddenly turned his attention towards him and his glowing fox eyes opened. His face covered in blood along with those eyes including Rain Sharingan made him look like a god of slaughter. Tsukimi disappeared once again and appeared in front of the man. His sword was slowly piercing through his chest and coming out of the back. The clan head was able to sense everything, but he was unable to do anything about it. Blood traced the corner of his mouth as he felt his soul slip away. In a matter of seconds the lifeless body of the clan head fell to the ground. Tsukimi turned his face towards the rest of the people he had left alive. Seeing him look towards them, everyone took a step back in fear. They just saw him slaughter their clan members like they were ants, and even the clan head who used the power of the energy vessel that everyone had been nourishing with the power of their Byakugan died before he could make a move. What can they even do if the person in front of them wants them dead? What are you doing? Do you think I am some bloodthirsty demon? Tsukimi chuckled seeing their reaction and waved his hands to clean himself of all the blood on him. Heeding those words, everyone's lips twitched as they thought in unison. This damned beast doesn't not even have self-awareness. How dare he say those words while stepping on the corpse of the clan head? Tsukimi did not know what they were thinking, and neither did he care enough to know, so he walked back to the throne and sat on it. Do you know why I left you all alive? Tsukimi asked, looking at the people of the Otsutsuki clan standing in front of him. Seeing them shaking their heads, Tsukimi clicked his tongue in annoyance. What did I expect from these people? His words were loud enough for everyone to hear as they hung their head low, not daring to look him in the eye. While it seemed Tsukimi was annoyed at the descendants of Kaguya, but the truth was he was annoyed by Kaguya's idiotic actions, and he was just being unreasonable, taking it out on her descendants. If Kaguya someday appeared in front of him, he would make her lie in his lap and beat some sense in her brain. Suddenly Tsukimi caught a teenage boy raising his head, looking in his eyes with some hesitation. Do you want to say something? Tsukimi asked with a calm tone. His words caused the rest of the people to look at the boy with a weird look on their face. Some were scared, thinking, what if the boy angered this demon? He was scarier than god of death to them. Why, yes. The boy finally gathered his courage and spoke. Chapter 71, Tonari Otsutsuki. You are? Tsukimi looked at the boy with a look of curiosity and asked. The boy trembled a little before replying, I am Tonari Otsutsuki. His words caused Tsukimi to raise his eyebrows. He was not unfamiliar with the name. As someone who has seen the Naruto anime along with the movies, he knew who Tonari Otsutsuki was. He even knew that in the movie Tonari Otsutsuki followed the clan leader's side and he was the only survivor of this branch. Tonari also believed that the humans should be punished for misuse of the gift Hamura gave them. Tsukimi was now glad that he never followed the anime as a source of his knowledge. He knew real life and real life are worlds apart. But according to the time, they should either be fighting or dead by now. Time spans for Otsutsuki is different from that for humans after all. Tsukimi thought as he tapped the tip of his finger on the armrest of the throne he was sitting on. His silence was unsettling for all the people of the Otsutsuki clan. They were scared of what might be going on inside his head. You seem to be on that man's side first, right? What changed? Tsukimi decided to ask the question straight up. His question caused the boy to tremble in fear, thinking he might die just like them. Don't worry, I am not a killing machine, just answer my question. Tsukimi chuckled seeing the reaction of the boy. He was easily able to guess what was going on inside his head. The rest of the clan members rolled their eyes inwardly when he said no to being a killing machine. They cast a glance at the fresh dead bodies in the room on the floor. Yeah, right. Like hell we will believe you. Monster. They all thought in unison, and sweat dropped on their backs as they felt a shiver down their spine. They turned to look at the man and realized that he was smiling in their direction. It was like he already knew what was going on in their head. Gulp. Sounds of people gulping their saliva in fear echoed in the silent room. Tonari sighed and replied, seeing there was no point in hiding anything. I was also a believer of what clan head used to say. I believed that the humans should be punished for wasting the gifts of our ancestors. Thinking about his past actions, Tonari sighed and continued, but that changed when you revealed what our founder really wanted us to do. Tsukimi smiled hearing the serious tone in the boy's voice and commented. How do you know that I am not making things up or lying to you? The members of the Otsutsuki clan got tense. They were really scared right now. If what he said was true, what choice did they have to follow his will? They cannot afford to be disobedient or they might die just like the others, but if they were forced to go against their ancestors they will choose to die instead. Hearing his question, Tonari smiled a little before replying. Why would you lie to someone whom you can kill without even wasting your breath? That's right. His words struck everyone's mind as they realized an important thing. What would he get for lying? To them, and from the way he spoke it was obvious that he seemed to have a bad opinion about their ancestors. If he wanted to control them by lying, he would not make it so obvious that he did not like their ancestors. On the other hand, Tsukimi just smiled hearing the response. He had always been a straightforward person when he was dealing with others. He could have manipulated them, but that was beneath him to act like that. He despised treacherous behavior. Back to the topic, what did you want to say, boy? Tsukimi changed the topic and asked again. Tonari did not mind being called a boy by the man in front of him because he knew how old and ancient this being in front of him was. The records in their library and the teaching of their elders told them everything they knew about the tailed beast from their origin. What is 10 tails? Where did it come from? How it was supposed to be sealed by their ancestors, how it was divided into 9 beings. Everything was recorded in their records and they have access to all of them. Yet there were few things that were not mentioned, like how he got free. How did he gain intelligence? How was he able to even gain a human form and exceed his power's limit of 10-tailed beasts? What happened? Hurry up and speak. Tsukimi was getting impatient seeing how long the boy was taking to think God knows what, so he spoke again. Tonari snapped out of his daze hearing those impatient words and hurriedly spoke, "It's nothing, I was just going to take a guess for your previous question." Tonari replied while scratching the back of his head. He was never this nervous even in front of his clan head, but now he did not know what happened. The rest of the clan members cursed the boy inwardly for taking so much time just to say this. Tsukimi on the other hand looked amused hearing those words and spoke. You have a guess about why I left you all alive? Do tell me what you guessed. I want to see if there is really a competent member among these bunch of dimwits. Tsukimi insulted them on their face, not caring about what they felt hearing one bit. It was true that he found these people brainless. They almost started a coup just on a disagreement when they were cursing humans for using chakra for wars. They were ready to become hypocrites just to fulfill their ancestors' wishes, but Tsukimi found their actions truly idiotic. I think that there is something you want us to do, that is why you left us alive. Other than that, I don't think there is any other purpose for you to leave us alive. Tonari took a deep breath and decided to tell the truth of what he thought after a moment of hesitation. Chapter 72, Celestial beings are as disgusting as humans. Everyone was once again astonished hearing the boy's analysis of the situation. In the moment of despair, all of their minds seemed to have stopped working. They were all so engrossed in thinking of how to survive that they forgot what he wanted to do with them. Tsukimi raised his head a little higher to look in the eyes of the boy before replying, "What you just said is on the point. I want you all to do something, but before I tell you what it is, I think there is a need for a new leader." Tsukimi's words caused everyone's hearts to beat wildly. Since they were following the teachings of their ancestors, they have been long dissatisfied with their old clan leader but could not stand against him. This was the reason they have been amassing strength in secret to start a rebellion and overthrow him. Now that their wish has been fulfilled indirectly, they could not help but cry tears of joy. Tsukimi snorted, seeing their expressions of joy at the deaths of their own family. Pathetic. Tsukimi thought and ignored them while turning towards Tonari. Tonari was shocked to see Tsukimi walk towards him and placed his finger in the middle of his eyebrows. He trembled in fear as he could feel something entering his mind. His moments caught the eye of the people around them and they continued to watch in shock as some weird patterns flew from the tip of Tsukimi's finger and entered the head of the boy. After a few seconds, Tsukimi retracted his fingers and said, "From today onwards you are the head of the Otsutsuki clan. I have placed a seal on your soul that will blow it up if you dare to go against me." Tonari's eyes widened in shock as he heard he had been branded with such a seal. Not only him but the rest of the Otsutsuki clan members were shocked to hear that a tailed beast was able to learn seals to such a level that he could decide their fate. "I am not sparing you to go against me, so be careful of what you do. I won't make you go against your so-called ancestor, instead what I want you to do is aligned with what he wants, so no need to be agitated." A series of sighs of relief echoed in the room. They did not want to be forced to do something that their ancestors did not want them to do. Tsukimi did not care about what Hamura wanted in the least. He just wanted his time with his family to go without any interruption, and a powerful clan of Otsutsuki bloodline was just enough for the time being. Walking back towards the throne, Tsukimi sat on it and tapped his feet on the ground twice. Several black characters started spreading with Tsukimi as the center and enveloped the entire area of the moon which was being used by these people. Don't think that if only Tonari has the seal you won't die. The seal is only a medius. It works on the basis of bloodline connection. Since you are all Hamura's descendants, you all will die along with him, and the reverse is also true. If one of you dares to betray me, all of you will perish, so be careful of how you act." Tsukimi declared, seeing the look of glee on their face. He realized that they were happy that they were not marked with such a seal. Just as he expected, as soon as those words fell in their ears, everyone went into a state of panic, be it older people or the younger one. "What? This is unfair. Why would I have to die along with others? I can pledge my loyalty to you, but let me live. Everyone started pleading for their lives and did not care whether the other died, but they did not want to die for the mistake of others. Seeing their state, not only Tsukimi but also Tonari was disgusted to the core. He realized that the people who were always smug about being a celestial being above humans were no better than they are when it came to their life. Sighing, he turned to look towards the man who made them behave like this, and his gaze was filled with a little admiration. He could tell the true nature of the man a little from the way he interacted with them and came to admire him a little too. Tsukimi was getting annoyed hearing their noisy pleas for their lives and released his pressure. His figure turned into the kitsune form and tails sprang out from his back. His ethereal and handsome appearance caught the eye of many female clan members, and even some males were entranced by his looks. The cold temperament on his face highlighted his looks even more. You inferior beings should be glad that I decided to spare your puny lives, and yet you dare to demand me to give you freedom. On what basis do you have the right to ask that? His cold and enchanting voice caused everyone's heart to tremble in fear, while the reason for some females to tremble was different, as they fell to their knees and gasped for breath just like everyone, but their pale faces had a sharp blush on them. Seeing that everyone had calmed down, Tsukimi decided to continue speaking. You all will listen to Tonari and guard the earth just like Hamura asked you to, and whenever someone from the main clan approaches, capture them, and if you fail to do so, Tonari will inform me through the seal. Seeing everyone not in agreement, Tsukimi turned to look towards Tonari and added, I have placed seals in every room of the clan to let you all improve chakra control and further advance in power with it enhancing your bodies. If you work hard enough, you might be able to awaken Rincharigan or Tensagan. Silence. Everyone even held their breath hearing his words. Rincharigan. Tensagan. Those were the legendary eyes of their ancestors, and they can awaken them with enough hard work. Their eyes shone in anticipation and longing along with a fire. Fire to obtain those legendary powers. Chapter 73, Otsutsuki Tonari's Resolve. Tsukimi watched their reactions while sitting on the throne. There was not a single change in his expressions. Tonari Otsutsuki sighed, seeing the reaction of his clan members, and a look of embarrassment appeared on his face. Take the opportunity to gain power. There will be people from the Otsutsuki clan who will be attacking soon, and you don't have the power to deal with them currently. Tsukimi stood up as he spoke, coldly looking at them like they were nothing but ants. Soon his figure enveloped in light and he disappeared, leaving his last words behind. I will be watching your performance. Silence. After Tsukimi left, no one spoke for a few minutes before they erupted into cheers. Did you not hear what he just said? Tonari's cold voice echoed in the room, and everyone once again turned silent. We were only spared temporarily. If we do not perform according to him, he can kill us at any time. Tonari's words made their scalp go numb. No one expected that there would be such a day where they would have to be servants of other people, let alone a tailed beast, but now this was their reality. All the happiness they were feeling vanished in smoke, and they waited for Tonari to speak further. No one looked down on Tonari for being young or for the fact that he supported the other side not long ago. They were now in the same boat, and Tonari was the person who seemingly understood what the Ten Tails wanted from them. He was personally crowned the clan head by that beast. How can they have any dissatisfaction? We have to gain power first. Just like he said, the Otsutsuki will be coming soon, and we can also fulfill the ancestors' wish of guarding the planet. Hearing those words, the eyes of the people of Otsutsuki clan gleamed, and they thought of the task their ancestor gave him, and now they finally had the opportunity to fulfill it. We need to charge the energy vessel too. The previous clan head wasted some of the energy stored in the vessel. Fortunately, that man did not take too much time to kill him before he could use more. Hearing his words, the rest of the people nodded in unison, agreeing with the matter. After assigning roles to the people left in their clan, Tonari sat on the throne, Nad closed she eyes. He still sometimes felt as if all of this was a dream. He had suddenly become a clan head. Half of his clan members died. As sad as he was, that was the truth he could not deny. He could not make them change their decisions, as he knew how stubborn these people were when it comes to their founder. Tonari sighed, but soon his expression changed when he sensed the seal in his mind moving. He thought that he would die because someone either betrayed or the tailed beast went back on its word, but suddenly something happened. He looked deep in his mind and realized that the seal was not damaging his soul, but instead it was purifying his bloodline. After a short part of the impurities in his bloodline was removed, Tonari heard a message in his mind. This is just the starting gift I am giving you so that you don't die early. Help me finish the task I will give you. In the future you will receive more of such gifts. How could he not recognize whose voice that was? It was none other than the fox they had encountered a few hours ago, and now he received such a priceless gift. Tonari's eyes gleamed with a sharp light as he thought of the possibility of gaining power equal to the level of his founder in the future. He could feel his heartbeat speeding up at a crazy rate. Sighing, he decided to calm himself and thought of the situation he was in. He was tempted with the strength he was given. If he could keep purifying his bloodline, he might even contend against the main branch of the Otsutsuki clan. Who didn't want more power? He, just like the others, wanted power to protect himself. Especially after he just realized how powerless they truly were. He closed his eyes before opening them. They gleamed with determination and will to grow stronger. After dealing with the work in Otsutsuki clan, Tsukimi returned back to Earth and looked through the whole Konoha searching for his wives. Finding them relaxing in their room in their adult forms, he disappeared and reappeared in front of them. Since he was in his original adult appearance, he did not have to change anything. Seeing Tsukimi appear out of nowhere, Matatabi jumped at him to hug him, but she suddenly felt the direction she was going change. Boom! Chapter 74, Double Falladio, R18. Seeing Tsukimi appear out of nowhere, Matatabi jumped at him to hug him, but she suddenly felt the direction she was going change. Boom! After she was smashed into the wall, she got up only to see Kokuo hugging Tsukimi while nestling her head in his chest. From the corner of her eyes, Kokuo seemed to be smirking at her. She seemed to be declaring her victory and ignored her soon, only to start sniffing Tsukimi from head to toe. Amused by her reaction, Tsukimi did not even interrupt them because he knew better than to think they were fighting. He had seen them grow up from the time of their birth, so he could tell when they were serious or not. Matatabi got up and walked towards them with a dark expression, but when she got closer to them, she was pulled by Tsukimi in his embrace and he smacked his lips against her, shutting her up. There seemed to be slight annoyance in her eyes, which gradually disappeared when Tsukimi pried her mouth open with his tongue and continued attacking. Kokuo sniffed his chest and kept going lower and lower until she reached the area where there was a slight bulge in Tsukimi's pants. She used her hands to rub the bulge above the pants and sniffed it a little too. Tsukimi used his hand to pat the little beast, which seemed to make her actions even more aggressive. She unzipped his pants and released the beast from its cage. Kokuo's eyes were replaced by heart-shaped eyes, seeing the semi-erect dragon in front of her eyes. She took a deep breath to inhale the manly scent of her husband before giving a small peck on the tip of it. While she was kissing Tsukimi's dick, she even used her tongue to peel his foreskin backwards while tracing it around the head of the shaft. Her hand made their way to hold the shaft and pull the skin backwards. Tsukimi stopped patting her head and started stroking it instead. He did not forget Matatabi as he started moving other hand to grope her ass from one side and knead and stretch it. Matatabi also replied, using her hands to remove his robes and move her fingers on his solid body. Tsukimi got more aroused as they continued their act. He did not forget to place a time seal in the room to slow the time inside the seal. Kokuo was now excited to see Tsukimi fully erect while half of his member was inside her mouth. She was happy that Tsukimi was feeling good and increased the pace of her sucking. With each movement she took his dick deeper and deeper in her mouth until it hit the back of her head. Her eyes were rolling backwards as Tsukimi could feel a weird sensation all over his lower body. After adjusting to the size, Kokuo took in his penis even further inside her mouth until it was fully inside of her. Tsukimi did not stop her as he was feeling very good doing this for the first time. Even though they had never done this before, the muscles of a tailed beast are very flexible. Kokuo started bobbing her head up and down while her own insides tingle from the excitement she was feeling at the moment. Matatabi, seeing the blissful expression of her sister, separated from Tsukimi and broke the kiss. She kneeled down beside her and started sucking on his two balls one by one. Tsukimi placed both of his hands on the heads of the girls and closed his eyes and enjoyed the moment. Matatabi pulled Kokuo back by the neck and took his whole cock inside her throat in a single movement. She looked at her with a similar expression. Kokuo looked at her when she attacked her. Matatabi also wrapped her tongue around his dick while sucking on it at the same time. Tsukimi's dick twitched, feeling good from many sides. Kokuo did not waste time on Matatabi and took her place in sucking other parts. Before long, Tsukimi reached the peak of pleasure and his lower body started twitching and he released a huge amount of load inside Matatabi's mouth. Seeing her gulp down the semen like a greedy cat, Kokuo pulled the dick out of her mouth and attached it to her mouth, but her actions caused Tsukimi's cum to spread all over their faces and bodies, drowning them in a small shower of cream. Kokuo did not mind and enjoyed it by greedily taking in what was coming direct from the source. Matatabi got angry and instead of doing anything to the girl, she picked her up in her arms, surprising her. Yelp! Tsukimi was getting a little annoyed seeing them play while he was in the middle of releasing. Matatabi seemed to sense his dissatisfaction and looked at him apologetically while spreading Kokuo's legs in her arms and saying, "Here dear, it's all ready for you." Kokuo's face flushed red seeing the position she was in and she covered her face to hide it from Tsukimi. Matatabi seeing this reaction smirked in victory while Tsukimi was further aroused seeing Kokuo's gaping pussy as if screaming for him to enter inside of her. His dick which deflated a little because of getting annoyed was now even more harder than before and even longer as it twitched. Tsukimi walked closer towards them and used his thumbs to spread the little pink hole to maximum. Kokuo looked at his cock which knocked at her entrance from the gaps of her finger and her inside trembled. Then Tsukimi's husky voice came, sending shivers down her spine. I am going in. Chapter 75, Kokuo's masochist side. R18. Kokuo looked at his cock which knocked at her entrance from the gaps of her finger and her inside trembled. Then Tsukimi's husky voice came, sending shivers down her spine. I am going in. With a single push, Tsukimi slammed his penis directly at the entrance of Kokuo's womb causing her to contract the muscles around it. She gasped at the sudden moment. Gasp. MMMM, and Kokuo nibbled on her fingers to hold her moan as she spasmed from the sheer pleasure she was feeling. Her toes curled and locked her legs behind Tsukimi's back, locking him in the position. Tsukimi grunted, feeling the pleasure around his member and continued to move. Matatabi watched all this with a victorious smirk on her face but somehow she felt she lost even after winning seeing the look of ecstasy on her sister's face. Tsukimi did not wait for Kokuo to get used to the pleasure and started moving suddenly. Ahn wait, Tsukii. Tsukii. Dot. She moaned harder and harder with each thrust. She looked at Tsukimi with a look of passion and love from her half-closed eyes. Seeing that look, Tsukimi increased his pace even more. On. Ahnmmm harder. Nii. Slam it hard air. Kokuo needy moans filled the room and Tsukimi responded in kind. He moved his hand and choked Kokuo's neck making her gasp in shock and even Matatabi was puzzled. After a moment of shock Kokuo felt her pussy tighten around his dick and something inside of her seemed to have awakened. Her eyes gained heart-shaped pupils as she moaned even louder. Yes, choke me like that. All of her shyness faded and what replaced her was a pure expression of lust and love. Ignoring her pleased Tsukimi moved closer and bit her erect nipples that were pointing towards the ceiling using his sharp teeth. A shrieking moan with a mixture of pain and pleasure escaped Kokuo's mouth. Feeling the weird sensation of pain and pleasure together sent shivers down Kokuo's spine and it stirred her pussy to the point of leaking like a open tap. Forgetting everything she held his forehead bringing it even closer to her chest as if wanting them to merge together. Her desperate sweet little cries turned into moans of a woman feeling peaks of pleasure that even made Matatabi's inside twitch in anticipation. She looked at Tsukimi's dick that was ramming in and out of Kokuo's body glistening with water like liquid. The slopping sounds of their flesh colliding made the erotic atmosphere of the room even more hotter. It did not take long before she reached climax. Faster coming. Kokuo yelled on top of her lung as her body instinctively moved closer towards Tsukimi and her chest moved upwards. Splash! She squirted all over Tsukimi's lower body while her eyes rolled backwards. Tsukimi however ignored her state and continued moving his hips. Kokuo's eyes widened. Wait. Tsukii haven't finished coming let me ahn all of her desperate pleas were ignored by Tsukimi and soon they got drowned in her own moans. Tsukimi took Kokuo from Matatabi Arma and placed his hands on Kokuo's hips while using his tail to bring Matatabi closer. Kokuo leaned against his chest as he continued to pound her insides. Tsukimi moved and bit Kokuo's earlobes while using natural energy to stimulate her pleasure points through it. He did not ignore Matatabi. He used his tail to wrap around her big and plumpy breasts and squeezed them. While his other tail started making its way towards her lower part. Ugh. More. Yush. Kokuo's words started to distort with her moans mixing among it and soon she came again. Tsukimi did not stop and continued for round 3, he had yet to come even once and Kokuo was still not even close to getting tired. After a few more rounds of Kokuo spasming and squirting Tsukimi placed her on the bed and turned to look at his other wife. Sorry to keep you waiting dear. He smiled at her knowing how aroused she was and she still did not interrupt them. Seeing the smile full of warmth Matatabi's insides stirred and her pussy started dripping with her cum dripping down her trembling thighs. Her eyes turned hollow as she did not say anything and pounced on Tsukimi's body like a cat. With a smile on his face Tsukimi continued his session until the dawn of the next day. Although it had only been a night on the outside it has been days for the trio. Right now they were back in the bathroom of Tsukimi's dimension in their true forms. They had been in their human forms for too long and wanted to take fresh air in their true body. Matatabi stretched her body like a cat beside the pool and exclaimed. My body feels so stiff from staying in the human form for so long. Hearing her words, Kokuo and Tsukimi rolled their eyes. Since they know their bodies don't have bones, blood's like humans and purely works on nature energy, they could not help but roll their eyes at her baseless comments. Even Tsukimi was sure she just wanted to stretch her body and jump around, which was why she was behaving this way. Among the whole family, Kokuo was one of the most energetic bunch and never sat in one place unless it was beside Tsukimi. Just as Tsukimi thought, she jumped into the pool, splashing water on Kokuo, who was resting against Tsukimi's furry chest in the pool. She glared at Matatabi with killing intent before sending a wave of water towards her, drowning her in the process. Quig! Coming out from the depth of water, Matatabi coughed up excess water from her body. Kokuo, you bitch, let me kill you. Go away, don't disturb my time with Ni-san. Kokuo spoke lazily while rubbing her head against Tsukimi's fur. Tsukimi smiled and used his tail to stroke her back, causing her to tremble a little. Matatabi looked at them with her hollow gaze and made her way towards them. Tsukimi saw her actions and used his other tail to wrap around Matatabi's tail. His actions caused the cat off guard, and the next thing she knew was she found herself melting and swooning in his embrace. "TCH, I will kill that bitch next time," she mumbled before burying her head in his fur. Chapter 76, Early Graduation. It's been 2.5 years since Tsukimi took over the Otsutsuki clan, and during these 3 years he did nothing but increase the level of understanding of time laws. These laws were the fundamental of the universe, and they were the main source of power for the powerful experts. Instead of learning these laws by himself, Tsukimi was using his shadow clones to learn them. In these years he got closer to some of his classmates to the point he was comfortable talking with them, unlike the rest of the humans. He had come to see humans as a race that is selfish for their desires and wishes. When he told Matatabi and Kokuo that he was going to look for a human wife, he was simply teasing them in an attempt to make them more expressive about their feelings. He never truly thought himself of having someone as a wife among these humans. Scanning his eyes through the class as he sat between his wives, Tsukimi saw through all kinds of eyes looking at him. He could sense eyes filled with admiration, ill intent, fear, hate, lust and many more emotions. Some of the students came to admire his strength because he always defeated his opponents with a single strike, just like his fiancés. Tsukimi knew the nature of these kids. If he did not show overwhelming power, they would continue to pester him. His clone was once ambushed by a genin relative of kid he thrashed because he brought a few people to overwhelm him with number. The state he left the genin caused him to be called by Hiruzen. Danzo would have tried to interfere in this matter and taken the boy, which is Mimito made a move and also appeared at that time, but to everyone who knew Dano were surprised to see him staying silent in the corner. The truth was that Tsukimi used his illusion on Danzo to imprint it in his mind to never offend him. He even went as far as giving him thoughts about having relationship with men from his envy whenever he tried to think of harming him or his loved ones. As a result, Danzo had quite a few sleepless nights. When he was pardoned because of Mito, no one came to bother Tsukimi and they all kept a distance from him. When it came to lust, he turned to look at the shy girl in the corner of the room who suddenly hid her face behind the book, hoping he did not notice her peeking. She was not the only one, there were many more girls like this, but they were scared of his fiancés just like how the boys were scared of him. How could Tsukimi not realize what these girls were thinking? Yet they did not arouse a single interest within him. Let alone the fact that they were kids, but they also had the personality that Tsukimi hated. Hanami, for example, he could tell she was kind of like Kokuo in personality, but Kokuo was way better than that girl. Kokuo has the courage to stand up and declare her love to others, and there is also the fact that Hanami was too soft for her own good. She was the kind of person who would never betray her village and her family. Tsukimi was someone whose real identity is something that would make the woman have to go against the whole world, let alone a small village. Mikoto was also among the girls who have crush on him. He could tell she would sneak some glances at him every now and then, but she was too bound to her clan for him to even think about if she was in love with him or not. He could tell she was someone who don't want to go against the clan. What they chose for her will be what she will be doing. Then there was a certain dog that was always glaring at him from afar with an indurated look in her eyes. She might not have even realized her own feelings because of the muscle brain she had. Tsukimi found her annoyance to the point he would address her as annoying woman to her face. Whenever Tsum tried to retort back, she would feel her words struck in throat. Those eyes of his looked at her like he was looking at some inferior creature. Somehow that look made her want to make him call her more that way. Tsukimi realized how much of a pervert she was. There was nothing about her that Tsukimi hated, but he didn't like anything about her. Tsukimi blatantly ignored Mabuki and looked back at the teacher who just entered the class. This time he did not use a clone to attend the class, but he came here himself because of a special reason. As you all know that the Chunin exams are going on in the village, there will be more and more ninjas coming to the village. You can watch the exam and learn a few things from it too. Minato's eyes shone upon hearing these words while Tsukimi glanced outside the window and the class continued before the lecture came to an end. Tsukimi got up and walked towards Akira and requested, while the two girls followed behind him. Teacher, we would like to apply for an early graduation. Chapter 77, A War is Coming. Tsukimi got up and walked towards Akira and requested, while the two girls followed behind him. Teacher, we would like to apply for an early graduation. Akira was a little shocked but he was not surprised. He knew how powerful they were, they had easily defeated a genin a year ago. There was not even a doubt about their physical abilities let alone their skills. The kids got shocked as they started talking among each other. They are planning on graduating so early? Aren't they full of themselves? If it's them they can probably do it. Yet I heard that Akihiko-kun defeated a genin easily. Hearing these comments from the students, the people from the Uchiha clan were not happy. Especially Ren Uchiha, he hated how he was defeated by Tsukimi and practiced way harder than before and even made plans to defeat him, but now the boy was suddenly leaving and graduating before him. He also wanted to graduate but he knew he was unable to do so because he was not fully prepared and even his jutsus hadn't reached the appropriate level for graduation. Sure, let me prepare the test for you and inform Hokage-sama about it. After agreeing to his request, Akira picked up the documents and walked out of the room. Tsukimi and the girls returned to their seats and a group of kids approached them. They were Mikoto, Minato, Kushina and Hanami. Hanami kept a little distance from the group and hid behind them. Akihiko-kun, you are going to graduate? You are amazing, Date Bane. Kushina jumped at him and spoke in a cheery voice. She had become friends with him in these years just like the other, well that's what they seem to think. Tsukimi on the other hand cannot just seemingly accept them as friends. He want to wait for them to grow up and when they face the real world their personality might change and he might come to hate them, which was the reason that Tsukimi was thinking of seeing how they turn out to be. But before Kushina could reach Tsukimi, a strong grip stopped her mid-air. Kushina turned and looked at the person who stopped her and saw a pair of cold blue eyes boring into her. She gulped out of fear instinctively seeing those eyes. You shouldn't jump at people randomly, Kushina-san. Matadabi's cold voice entered Kushina's ears and her face turned red realizing what she was going to do. Being overly excited, she was going to hug a boy who was already engaged. The temperament of his fiancés was well known in the class and this caused Tsukimi's fangirl to just look at him from distance. Minato chuckled wryly seeing the weird atmosphere and interrupted. Well, what Kushina said is true, it's not even 3 years since the classes started and you are already leaving. He sighed realizing that they might not see each other for a long time. Me too, I want to spar against Haruki again. Mikoto also chimed in while glancing at the girl holding Kushina by her collar with a weird look. It will be sad when you three are not here. Hanami added in a soft voice. She was a little shy person but not to the point she couldn't speak with others. Tsukimi sighed seeing their reactions and spoke. You kids are acting like we won't be seeing each other again. You know genin missions are all in the village itself. I don't have to leave or go to any other village unless. He did not continue but they already understood what he was talking about. The situation in the world was not as calm as it appeared on the surface. Some tension seemed to be brewing in the area and the people with experience and power knew what was going to happen. A war was coming. In general situations genins were not given hard or life-threatening missions, but if the war arrives they have to follow the orders of the Hokage and leave the village to do the life-threatening missions. Well, even if they had to join they would not be in danger but their enemies would be the one who would be in danger. Besides, I don't think it will be long before you all will be able to graduate too, but I suggest getting as strong as you can before something happens. He glanced at all of them and could basically guess their power levels. Hearing his words, Minato and the rest nodded in agreement. There was a glint of eagerness in their eyes. They all wanted to graduate from the academy and prove themselves as ninjas. Seeing their looks, Tsukimi shook his head. Too much manipulation made the new generation so eager to become ninja without even realizing what they are in for. It was the consequences of the actions of the people who wanted to manipulate people that made little children want to jump on the battlefield. Half of them quit when they have to kill for the first time while some of them become the perfect soldiers the village needs. Before they could continue their conversation, the door of the class opened up revealing 3 figures. Chapter 78, Weird Sunnins. Before they could continue their conversation, the door of the class opened up revealing 3 figures. Akira entered the room with Tsunade and a teen-aged boy with weird markings on his face. His white-colored wild hair flew to the side and he walked inside the room with his head held high. It's 2 of the 3 Sunnins. Gasp, it's Jiraiya-sama. Tsunade-sama is also here. It was none other than the Jiraiya, one of the 3 renowned Sunin groups of the ninja. As soon as he entered the room he glanced through all of the kids present before his eyes stopped at Minato for a second and then it landed on the masked boy. Seeing the masked boy, his face looked weird before returning to normal. Who wears such weird masks these days, but those kids look cool in it. Should I get one myself? I might look even more handsome later. No one knew what was going on in his mind. That was a good thing, or their mind would have collapsed realizing what kind of person their idol was. Tsunade glanced at the rest of the kids for less than a second before she looked at Tsukimi with a strange glint in her eyes. Akihiko, Asami and Haruki, follow us. We will be conducting your graduation test. Akira announced and looked at the 3 kids he spoke about. Tsukimi, Kokuo and Matatabi got up from their seats and walked towards their teacher. They walked out of the room together under the watchful eyes of the kids in the class. Do you think he will be alright? Of course, Akihiko-kun will not even break a sweat. Tsukimi's fangirls talked among themselves while Hanami and the rest walked back to their seats and sat down. Akira, Tsunade and Jiraiya led everyone to an open field. Akihiko-kun, we will start with the test now. Akira spoke in a calm tone, but his eyes held a look of anticipation, hoping to see through the limits of the boy. Ever since Akira had become his student, he had always been able to easily accomplish any task or technique he had been given in the class. Which is the reason Akira had never seen him go all out in a fight. So you are the kid Sensei had been talking about. Jiraiya spoke with a laugh and moved to pat Akihiko's back only to touch empty air. He looked at the boy with a puzzled look while Tsunade laughed out loud. Haha, Jiraiya, it seems a kid made a fool of you. She did not hold back on taunting him at all, and Jiraiya's face flushed hearing her words. He always had a crush on Tsunade since he was a kid, and he was embarrassed in front of his crush. Don't mind the kid, he doesn't like people getting too close to him. Tsunade added with a snort, seeing Jiraiya's pitiful face. It seems 3 Sunins are a bunch of weird people. Kokuo commented with a plain face as Matatabi and Tsukimi nodded in agreement. What do you mean? Tsunda yelled in frustration, looking at the little girl calling her weird. Well, one is a brute who talks with her fist. Tsukimi conveyed what Kokuo meant, and a vein popped up in Tsunade's forehead as she clenched her fists. One is a pervert who takes all the chances he can get to ogle at girls. He continued, ignoring her expression while casting a look at Jiraiya, who was peeking at Tsunade's breasts from the corner of her eyes. Hearing those words, Jiraiya at first did not take them to heart, but when he heard his last line his face paled and looked upward to see Tsunade's cold eyes looking deep at him. She moved forward without saying anything. As a result, Jiraiya took a step back in fear, gulping down his saliva. Tsunade, listen to me. This brat is lying. I didn't. Before he could complete his sentence, Tsunade kicked him in the stomach, sending him flying backwards until he hit the wall of the academy. Akira's sweat dropped looking at the scene in front of him. He knew that the 3 famous ninjas of the Konoha village were a little weird, but seeing it with his own eyes he could not help but lose his respect towards them. Seeing the bloodied figure of her teammate in the pile of rubble, Tsunade snorted and spoke. Jiraiya, it seems that you need a leave for a few days. Don't worry, I will explain Sensei that you was just receiving karma of your good deeds. Jiraiya did not even have the strength to reply to her as he passed out on the spot. Tsunade looked back at Tsukimi and asked with her eyebrows raised. Boy, what about the snake bastard? You have never met him. She was surprised to see him standing there without a change in expression after seeing such a scene. Even her teacher, the Hokage, could not stay calm after seeing her almost kill Jiraiya. The fact that you are calling him a snake bastard speaks for itself, and the way he is looking at us right now is like a pedophile looking at little girls. Tsukimi spoke while looking at a tree far away from them. Tsunade's lips twitched hearing his words and she rubbed her forehead. Hee, I didn't think mere kids would be able to sense me. It seems we have quite qualified sensors. You kids really make me want to see what you are more capable of. A husky snake-like voice came from the back of the tree as a man wearing weird clothes that covered his full body walked out from behind the same tree. Chapter 79, Kenjutsu. Hee, I didn't think mere kids would be able to sense me. It seems we have quite qualified sensors. You kids really make me want to see what you are more capable of. A husky snake-like voice came from the back of the tree as a man wearing weird clothes that covered his full body walked out from behind the same tree. This Orochimaru really knows how to be creep up to anyone. Tsunade mumbled, watching her teammate make his way towards them. She already noticed his presence a while ago but did not make a fuss about it because she did not want others to know what kind of people her teammates are. Sanda was surprised that their sensory abilities have grown to this extent in these 2 years. Orochimaru's reason behind his action was to gauge their current sensor abilities. Tsunade told him about their senior capabilities and he did not hide his presence too much just so he could test them. He wanted to keep decreasing the distance to see how long it would take them to notice him, but to his surprise they knew about him from the start. You 3 are really worthy to be that old man's disciple. One is just as weird as the other. Matatabi chuckled and commented without even batting an eye to the people standing in front of them. Orochimaru did not take offense to her words, instead his grin widened hearing those words. Tsunade on the other hand felt like she was being compared to these perverts and her hands clenched into a fist while the ground beneath her feet cracked. Matatabi looked at her with a smirk as if saying, "This is what I meant by what I just said." Cough, let's not delay the test any longer. Akira coughed and interrupted their talk before things escalated. He looked at the 3 kids and announced. 3 of you make clones first. Poof. Just for the sake of showing, Tsukimi made the required hand seals and with a puff of deliberate smoke an identical clone of Tsukimi came into view. Just like her, the 2 girls followed his lead and made their clones. Akira noted down the points after carefully assessing the clones. The clones did not have anything different from the originals, so he gave them full marks. Now that all of you have passed the test, you are officially the genins of the village. Hokage-sama will take pictures with you and you will be assigned under a jonin instructor. I will take my leave now. After saying that, Akira used body flicker technique to disappear from the place he was standing in an instant. Oi brat! Since you have already graduated, won't you treat me to a party? Tsunade spoke with a smirk on her face. She wanted to use this opportunity to swindle money out of the boy. As much as I would like to decline the offer, it's fine by me. I am craving some ramen, so let's go. Tsukimi spoke in a plain tone without even giving Tsunade a second glance. This brat! In anger, Tswax kicked something only to see it was Jiraiya, who had crawled his way back from the ruble only to be sent back to another one. She snorted and walked out of the academy along with the kids. Orochimaru licked his lips and walked behind them after glancing at his teammate for a second. On the way they did not talk to each other until someone decided to break the silence. Tsukimi-kun, who do you think would be your jonin instructor? Orochimaru asked with a curious glint in his eyes, and even Tsunade got curious waiting to hear the response to the question. Tsukimi hummed before speaking. I don't know, I just hope it's not one of you. Before Tsunade could flare in anger, Tsukimi continued. I would want that person to be good with swords. Orochimaru did not take offense to his words but got curious about his interest in swords. Kenjutsu, you want to learn the way of swords? It would be a tough road, he commented without much emotion in his tone. It was just a theoretical question from his behalf, it's not like they could choose his instructor. They were assigned by the Hokage. You will just waste your talent in Kenjutsu. Tsunade snorted, hearing his options. She knew how strong his body was and his talent in Taijutsu was even stronger than hers. She hated to admit it, but that was the truth. Tsukimi did not speak but continued walking. He had not been able to learn sword style since he had received Meure. Use me. Use me as you please, a familiar voice echoed in Tsukimi's mind, which caused him to smile a little. Unknown to Tsunade and Orochimaru, their teacher had been watching them from the start since they left the academy compound. Kenjutsu, interesting. Hiruzen mumbled while taking out a paper from one of the piles on his desk. I know which person to assign you to now. With a shining glint in his eyes, Hiruzen took a puff of smoke before he placed the document on the desk. Chapter 80, Gambling Genes. Arriving at the ramen shop, Tsukimi entered the small cart shop with the rest of the people following behind him. He looked around to see a teen manning the shop by himself. His eyes were almost closed, but from what it looked like he was still able to see what he was doing. Welcome to Ichiraku Ramen, what would you like to order? The boy asked politely while smiling at the customers. Order whatever you want. Tsukimi spoke before taking a seat. The girls chose to sit beside him like they do in the class. This is the first time we came here, isn't it? Matatabi asked, looking around the small store. Kokuo nodded and looked at Tsukimi to order the food for her. Matatabi also started looking at the types of dishes they served. I would have a miso ramen first. After that you can make the others one by one. Tsukimi gave the order after looking at the menu. Kokuo and Matatabi also agreed to have the same. He wanted to try every single ramen on the menu, since they could easily eat his whole store worth of stock without even getting satisfied. They were just eating for taste. Tsunade looked at the boy with a weird look her eyes. Can you even finish that much? Well, what do I care, it's your money. Orochimaru had already given his order for the ramen. Tsunade's surprise yes shone looking at the menu and ordered the most expensive ramen without any reserves. She just wanted to shame the boy for the disrespect he had shown to his elders. That will teach you how to not be arrogant. Hehe, if you beg me I might pay the bill later, but I will make sure you suffer properly. Tsukimi heard the maniac-like giggles from her and looked at her with a weird look in his eyes. The boy managing the stall took the order and started making the noodles. Here is your order. Before long he placed everyone's order on the table and they started eating the food. Tuki, your ramen seems to better than before. Tsunade commented while taking the bite of the pieces of chicken in the ramen. Thanks for the praise, Tsunade-sama. Tuki scratched the back of his head in embarrassment. He has been trying to perfect the recipe of his ramen. While Tsunade and Orochimaru did not even finish half of the ramen, Tsukimi, Kokuo, and Matatabi had already finished their meals, shocking the rest of the people. It was not the speed of their eating that shocked them, but it was the fact that they were eating elegantly while maintaining that speed somehow. The next one please. Tsukimi spoke calmly, bringing the teenage boy out of his shock, and he hurriedly replied. Right away. In a minute 3 more ramens were placed on the counter just like the other. They were devoured by the trio in a proper manner. Tsunade looked at the 3 of them like he was a monster. What do you even do to be able to eat that much? She did not even finish her first yet the boy finished the 2 whole bowls of ramen. We just eat a little more than normal people. His comment caused her lips to twitch. She cursed in her mind thinking, just a little more. What kind of normal people are you talking about? Tsukimi did not have to wait for a long time as Tuki hurriedly started preparing one bowl after another for him. In the end they just ate around 10 or so ramens per person while Tsunade and Orochimaru ate 4 and 2 each respectively. After everyone was done eating, Tsukimi looked at the boy with a hint of impatience in her eyes. She wanted to see how he would pay the bill now. The bill is 70,000 ryo. Tuki left a small slip of bill on the countertop and Tsukimi got up to pay. Hey boy, can you pay? If you cannot, I might help you pay for that, but you have to ask nicely. Hearing her loud exclamation, even Orochimaru's lips twitched while he did not even say a thing to meddle in her talk. He knew better than to say unnecessary things in front of her. Tsukimi's hand halted and he looked at the blonde kunoichi with a small smirk on his face under the mask. What if I can pay? Tsukimi spoke the words in a tone that made it look like they were gambling if he can pay or not. Tsunade's grin widened hearing those words as she spoke. She was instantly hooked with her gambling habits ever since she came in touch with it through Grandpa. Tsukimi knew Hashirama well enough to know his gambling habits, and much to his surprise even his granddaughter had it too. He came to know about it while living with them and somehow he wasn't surprised. If you manage to pay it, I will agree to your request for once. Any request? She spoke with a victorious smirk on her face and Tsukimi raised his eyebrow hearing the response. He decided to humor the girl and placed a bundle of ryos on the counter in front of the shocked Tuki. There is 100,000 ryo in it, the rest is your tip. Tsukimi turned towards Tsunade and added, I will see what I would want you to do for me. Even though she could not see his face, Tsunade knew that the boy was smirking under the mask. Damn you boy! She could only shout in anger as Tsukimi quietly walked out with the girls. Chapter 81, Jonin Teacher Hitaki Sakumo. Tsukimi went on a little date with the girls before going back home. On his way he bought many snacks for them to enjoy. They did not have their fill till now and have been craving something good to eat even now. So thinking of this, Tsukimi used his teleportation ability and disappeared from the room before he reappearing in the jungle around the area where they used to live. With a swift motion with his hands, Tsukimi killed a pack of wolves, and they were no ordinary beasts but they were chakra beasts. Placing their corpses in his dimensional space, Tsukimi went back home. Let's have a barbecue. Tsukimi gave the girls good news, causing their eyes to glow with a weird sparkle. They hurriedly followed him to the backyard. Tsukimi used his ability to create a grill that was the size of a car. He used fire and wood chakra to light up the fire, and he used his wind chakra to cut the beast very meticulously. After skinning them, he started seasoning with the things he created using his abilities. If Hago Romo could see him using creation of all things in this way, he would rip his white beard in anger while cursing him to be sealed. Tsukimi did not even take a few minutes before a strong aroma spread through the air, but because of Tsukimi's seals it did not leave the courtyard and stayed around them. Using his time lost, Tsukimi caused the time around the meat to slow down so that they can enjoy food slowly without fearing for it to get burned. The girls enjoyed the meal so much that they decided to reward Tsukimi with a monthly-long session of love-making in his dimension. The next day Tsukimi and the girls were called to the Hokage office to meet their assigned Jonin instructor. Knock knock. You can enter. Hearing the aged voice from the room, Tsukimi and the girls entered the room. As soon as they entered the room their eyes fell on the middle-aged man buried in the piles of paperwork. You are here Akihiko-kun, you seem to be earlier than your Jonin instructor. He will be here soon. Hiruzen looked up to match his eyes with the three kids standing in front of him and he showed a grandfatherly smile on his face. Tsukimi's lips twitched and he nodded hearing the words. I have placed you three into the same team because you three have already been together for a long time so you should know how to fight as a team. Seeing the lack of response Hiruzen continued and before Tsukimi could reply he sensed a chakra signature coming towards the room. The level of chakra was quite higher than what a Jonin should have and he could vaguely guess who that person was. Hiruzen also sensed it naturally and looked towards the gate. It seems like your new sensei is here. Knock. Come in. Unlike before his voice contained a hint of authority inside it which Tsukimi sensed. A tall man with white hair entered the room, he was wearing a Jonin outfit while carrying a short sword along with him. He walked in and kneeled in front of the middle-aged man while saying, You have called for me Hokage-sama. The man spoke while looking at the man in front of him with respect in his eyes. Hiruzen nodded and dropped a file at the end of the table while saying, Yes, Sakumo-kun, these three are your new team members. They applied for early graduation and passed. As Hiruzen spoke, Sakumo picked up the file while listening to his words. He raised an eyebrow reading their description and their past achievements. They were better than any kids that he has ever seen in his life but he did not care about any of that. I entrust you with their teaching. Hiruzen spoke in a solemn tone and Sakumo nodded in agreement. I will do my best to not disappoint you, Hokage-sama. He bowed before turning towards the three kids. Tsukimi could guess what he meant while saying those words. He knew the girls would have realized too because the man in front of them was like a toddler playing house in front of them. Does this little fool want to use us in the war? It seems that way. Pitiful old man does not know what he is playing with. Just like Tsukimi thought the girls were already communicating how much of a fool he looked in front of them. Although he was shocked to see their appearance he did not show on his face being an experienced Jonin. Meet me in the training ground 1 in 20 minutes. Leaving those words he disappeared from the room. Tsukimi and the girls walked out of the room as well. Hiruzen looked at the closed door of the room and his light flashed in his eyes before disappearing in its depth. Tsukimi and the girls walked to the training grounds and appeared there in 10 minutes. They could have instantly appeared there before the man but did not want to show off in front of kids. Seems like you are quite capable. Sakumo spoke with a plain expression on his face while looking at the new kids that were assigned to him. Chapter 82, Assessment. Seems like you are quite capable. Sakumo spoke with a plain expression on his face while looking at the new kids that were assigned to him. Now that you are here, let me tell you about your second assessment. If you fail this assessment you will be sent back to the academy. Sakumo spoke, waiting for them to react but seeing the lack of response on their face he couldn't stop his mouth from twitching a little. Then he remembered the information he had come in contact with for a long time. He knew they were living with the Senju clan so it was natural for them to know about this. Besides that information he received a detailed file from the Hokage about their information. Which included their past, what they did in the academy and their power levels. Sakumo was surprised to see a line in their files that was underlined in their power level. Estimated power level of new Chunin. Never show their full power. He looked at the three kids in front of him with a deep look before continuing, it seems you are ready for the assessment. Let me tell you the details of the assessment. Sakuma moved his eyes from Kokuo, Matatabi to Tsukimi before continuing, I want you to land a hit on me. All three of you can work together as long as one of you manages to land a hit on me all of you wins. I will give you a few minutes to discuss and come up with whatever you want before we start. Saying these words, Sakumo created distance between them by using the body flicker technique. Tsukimi and the girls looked at each other, while communicating. How much strength should we hold back? Hearing Kokuo's question, Tsukimi replied without thinking. As much as we can. We just need to touch him. Saying that the three of them started walking with slight strength and that alone reached the level of making Sakumo think that they were definitely as strong as Chunin at the least. Sakumo sidestepped to dodge an attack from Matatabi and counterattacked with a chop to the back. To his surprise the girl twisted her body and dodged his attacks. Kokuo and the girls followed mostly the same strategy they used to defeat Tsunade. Unlike Tsunade, Sakumo was more trained and experienced in battles so he was able to analyze their attacks. In the middle of the attacks, He had some time with their moves. Even though they haven't gotten faster, their moments seemed more difficult for him to analyze even at that speed. What he did not know was that for the three of them, twisting and changing attacks in mid-air was as easy as taking turns while walking. It was not an understatement that they could easily find many holes in Tsukime's defense, but they let the opportunity pass by as they had to keep an eye on the amount of power they were showing. Kokuo silently tried to sneak a kick at Tsukime's head. He easily dodged it while sending his own kick backwards, which was once again dodged by the girl. He noticed that even though they could not touch him, he was the same. Every time he counterattacked, he could not touch. Tsukimi lowered his presence and sneaked in for the attack. Matatabi did the same, but she did not charge at him like Tsukimi. She moved around the man and tried to make him lose his attention on her. Tsukimi was gaining his attention by purposely lowering his presence and charging at the man in a straightforward way. Tsukimo was just using his strength at the level of a chunin, and he did not move much around while the three kids were all over the area. Seeing that he was not much suspicious of their power, Tsukimi's punch was narrowly dodged by Tsukimo and he attacked back with a pouch of his own. He thought Tsukimi was more powerful than both the girls, so he would dodge the attack like that, but to his surprise Tsukimi sidestepped. He used both of his arms to grip around his arm and lock him in place. He was surprised, but suddenly he felt his instincts that he had honed on the battlefield for years flaring and telling him that there was an attack coming in his direction at a very fast rate. Tsukimo tried to move, but Tsukimi twisted his body using the momentum of his body to trap Tsukimo and lowering his reaction time. Thump! That was the moment that they needed, and finally the attack arrived as Matatabi punched Tsukimo's back with a very low strength. A small tap should be all right. Tsukimo, feeling the power of the punch, moved forward a few steps and stumbled. Tsukimi also released him. Phew, you guys, you have passed. Tsukimo spoke with a plain face while standing up and steadying himself. You guys can go home and meet me next week at the entrance of the mission hall at this time. We will take on our first mission. Tsukimo disappeared saying that. Tsukimi looked at Matatabi and spoke. You really smacked the poor boy. Kokuo nodded in agreement. Matatabi bullied a kid. The gloating in her plane was apparent for them both. Chapter 83, Pitiful Mayure. From the first day of being a genin, Tsukimi and the girls sent their clones they made. Tsukimi was getting better and better at clones because of his practice. Now he was able to create clones with the amount of strength he desired. He also helped the girls to make the same kind of clones. Since the lowest they could do is a peak chunin level power, so they sent those clones in their place. This would also help them to hide from people with keen eyes that they were not holding back at all. Tsukimi also used his seal and genjutsu to add some extra features in the clones. The days returned to normal as Tsukimi started grinding his strength while he could feel that he was getting stronger, but the next realm was yet quite far away from him. After digesting the souls of the Otsutsuki clan members, he felt that his soul was getting stronger. After thorough checking and experimenting, Tsukimi realized that he would need to mature his soul if he wanted to advance to the next realm. He had not been able to enter his mind and see the state of his soul. It should have been easy for him to do so, but for some reason he was unable to. He had a feeling that after he breakthroughs to the next realm he would be able to see the realm reason behind it. His soul was clear that was to grow his soul and make it as strong as possible so that it can mature, and for that he needed to absorb the soul of countless beings since he did not have any other methods. His mind dwindled as he thought of the soul of a very powerful Otsutsuki he had been holding captive. After trapping Jijin or his Heike Otsutsuki, Noah only thought of a single problem, that it would lead to alerting the whole clan about his current state, and since they knew the severity of a fully matured god tree, they won't take any chances and send their big shots to deal with him, and he was not ready to face even the average powerhouses of the clan. But now he had different plans for that Otsutsuki member. Tsukimi looked at the black sword in his hand and smiled a little as he stroked it a little. His mind was wandering and planning for his future. Feeling his touch on it, the sword trembled and Tsukimi felt like he heard a slight moan in his mind breaking his thought process. The air in the surroundings seemed to come to a halt. His hands stopped and his lips twitched as he stared blankly at the sword in front of him. He started for a long while, but he did not hear that voice anymore. Thinking of it as an illusion or his mind playing tricks, he continued to touch it, and then it happened again. Ahn. See time, he heard it loud and clear. It was indeed Mayure's moan. It seemed like she was using the sword to feel his touch on her body. His eyes seemed to narrow as he glared at the sword coldly. With a wave of his hand, Tsukimi threw the sword a few meters away in the ground while looking at it with his blank eyes. He may have liked Mayure, but stroking the sword in that way felt weird even for him. Tsukimi, why did you stop? When he heard Mayure needy voiced, Tsukimi took a step back and turned his back towards the sword. Shot him at. Mayure's pleading voice came from the depths of Noah's mind, yet he ignored it and continued walking. Wait. Tsukimi, how could you leave me like that after doing that with me? She started sobbing and continued her pleas. You are so bad for throwing me when you touch me like. Veins started pooping on Tsukimi's head as he raised his hand and the sword that was stabbed in the ground trembled a little before rushing in his direction. If you don't want me to leave in an empty dimension, stop speaking. Hearing Tsukimi's cold voice, she shut up and did not dare to say anything else. With a flick of his hands, Tsukimi sent the sword back in the soul apace. Inside Tsukimi's soul realm, everywhere was dark. It was like an endless dark realm. The only source of light was stationed in the middle of this realm, where a ball of light seemed to contain an illusionary figure inside it. In the middle of this realm was a baby-shaped corporal figure that was sitting while hugging its legs and its eyes were closed. This was the soul of Tsukimi that was yet to mature, and around this soul were 3 threads that seemed to be connected to its hands. Suddenly in this dimly lit space a light flashed and a black sword appeared inside it. As the light surrounding the sword dimmed, the sword deformed and it started changing shape. It started to glow in an ethereal light and it finally took the shape of a human. The light dimmed before disappearing and the figure revealed itself. Chapter 84, Pitiful Mayure. 2. When the enchanting glow receded, it transformed into the enchanting figure of a beautiful and voluptuous woman. The light started to fade and her bare pure white feet came into view, followed by her plump and curvy legs. Her violet hair seemed to be so long that they were even able to cross her feet. Her eyes were closed as they emphasized her long eyelashes and beautiful face. The most shocking thing about her was that she was not wearing a single thing. Her perky huge breasts dangled in the air as her pink nipples seemed to be hardened to their limit. Below her willow-like waist was a small patch of violet hair accompanied by a glistening vertical slit. That was so red that it seemed like blood would drip from it at any moment. Her whole feeling gave off an aura of coldness and sharpness that could cut anyone that would look at her. The woman suddenly opened her enchanting eyes to reveal a pair of yellow orbs that looked like crystals without any impurities. Her eyes that were cold suddenly drooped down and a perverted look took place on her face. She held her face in her hands and started dreaming. Master was so domineering. Just imagining his cold face is making my inside tingle. She suddenly rolled around in the air and her eyes fell on the small illusionary figure suspending in the air, and as she came close towards to it, one of the threads suddenly extended and joined to her hand, and seeing this, smile grew more perverted. He master and my bond, master, I am just as much your wife as they are, so why do you not do those things with me? She looked at Tsukimi's soul with her empty eyes and there was an hint of obsession inside of them. Just because I don't have a darned human body. TCH. Just so I could gain a body, I made it so you would not be able to enter this realm. I don't want you to see me in my soul form that I can only take in your soul realm. I want you to see me a physical body as you ravish me. She started imagining the scenario where she would meet Tsukimi for the first time outside this realm. She started smiling like a maniac. Her pussy started dripping like a leak tap, and as she diced deeper in her thoughts, Mayure was the reason Tsukimi was unable to enter this dimension. She was making it so that he would only enter after he reaches the next realm. She was sure that he would be able to make a body for her when he reaches that realm. She believes in him that he will be able to do so. She also cannot suppress him any longer if he tried to force his way inside in the next realm. The look of disgust that master looked at me when he realized what I doing, she reimagined that look and her inside convulsed before she seemed to have reached an enlightened state. The liquid around her pussy disappeared, she reached climax without even touching herself. Her eyes gained clarity as she glanced at herself while thinking. Although this kind of pleasure is okay, I want the real thing. I want master to marry me too, just like he did with those bitch. Her mood seemed to deflated as she looked at the other threads floating around Tsukimi, and she gained a dark and overwhelming aura around her. How much she wanted to kill those bitches and have her master just focus on her, but she also liked how he ignored her knowingly. His cold voice and that haughty look, everything about him made her insides tingle. She knew she would hate it if he genuinely forget about her, but his action of ignoring her knowingly were somewhat arousing for her. She sighed and touched the soul with a delicate and gentle touch before saying, "Please make me your wife soon, dear." Her eyes gained an aura of sadness before she took her hand back. Unknown to her, a lone tear shed from her eyes, landing on the soul. Tsukimi, who was talking to his wives, felt a sudden pang in his heart. He thought something happened to someone he loved, and seeing the girls safe and sound in front of him, he immediately knew that it was Mayure. From her previous acts to gain my attention, it seems she is suffering in silence. I need to speed up research of seals. He split his consciousness and still continued his important talk with the girl while the other part of his consciousness informed his clones to stop increasing the level of skill and just focus on laws and seals. I won't let you wait for long, Mayure. Chapter 85, Jijin Otsutsuki. In a faraway place a Buddhist temple stood in the middle of a deserted place. At first this place was filled with people, but suddenly something happened that caused this place to be turned into this state. Even when people tried to find this place or investigate what happened, no one could find a single clue about it. They were not even able to find the traces of the huge temple of Buddha that suddenly vanished on a certain night. Yet the reason behind the disappearance of the temple was now floating in the air and looking directly at the temple in front of him. The illusionary seal is working perfectly. Tsukimi mumbled as his eyes scanned through a thin invisible layer of cover that was veiled over the entire mountain. Tsukimi had placed an illusionary seal on the temple that would not only make the seal invisible to the naked eyes, but also it would make the person who gets closer to it move around in circles while making them think they were walking in a straight path from the start. Tsukimi flew downwards slowly and his figure passed through the illusionary film without any resistance. He placed his feet on the floor in front of the giant entrance of the temple. Looking at the closed doors in front of him, Tsukimi put on a solemn expression and walked towards it. Click! Boom! With a flick of his hand the closed door was wide opened and Tsukimi continued to walk inside. The dust was suspended in the air as a sign that the place has not been opened in years. Tsukimi frowned a little before cleaning the room using a wave of his chakra. Tap! Tap! As Tsukimi tapped his feet on the ground twice, the seals on the ground lit up and a blue line started spreading from under Tsukimi's feet towards every corner of the hall. Whoosh! 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 One by one every light in the corner was turned on. A huge statue of the Buddha came into view along with many other small statues and pillars in the room. Ignoring everything, Tsukimi's eyes fell on the floor in the middle of the hall where a familiar figure was sitting. A monk dressed in keizayu robes was sitting in a meditative position and there were no signs of life in its body, but strangely even after so many years not only did the body not rot but it was also in its peak condition. The monk had a long ponytail while the rest of his head was shaved off. There were black markings on his body at certain places which seemed incomplete to the man observing it. Looking at those markings, Tsukimi mumbled, seal. The seal that people of Otsutsuki clan used to take over the body of their selected vessels. This monk was none other than Jijin or Ishaiki Otsutsuki. Several bindings that were made out of strange characters were surrounding the body of Jijin. Around his head was an orbit of different sets of markings while the other sets of marking were attached to the ground. It was like they were chaining the person to the ground. Sigh. Looking at the state of the body in front of him, Tsukimi sighed out loud in relief. He could tell that the body, although seemed to be of a dead person because of no presence of a heartbeat, but in reality it was very much alive, just like the soul inside the body. But since the person who had taken over this body was now in an eternal sleep because of the seals around the head of Jijin. Ishaiki Otsutsuki, a high-ranking person from the Otsutsuki clan. It seems like the annihilation of the Otsutsuki clan will start from you. Although I do not want to disrupt the peaceful life I have with my wives, but it seems that the people from the Otsutsuki clan would not leave a walking weapon out in the open because of the threat I pose to them. Tsukimi's eyes turned cold as he continued to speak. A strong killing intent filled the room as he spoke about eradicating the whole Otsutsuki clan. He was ready to let go of all the enormous amount of hatred he had for the clan, but he knew even though he was ready to let go, the clan would not possibly leave him alone, knowing that someone could threaten their existence. I may not be able to face you head-on, but I will surely use everyone you send as a fertilizer for my growth. Tsukimi did not hesitate a bit to make his next move and weaved his hands into various shapes and signs. All kinds of weird symbols and patterns appeared around Tsukimi's wrists as he continued to make hand signs. From the bottom of his feet a web of seals spread out and moved towards Jijin's body at a very incredible rate. Before long the chains around the body of the monk shattered and it started to tremble before falling onto the ground like a lifeless body. Tsukimi finished his seal as signs of fatigue became visible on his face, but he ignored everything and slammed his hand together as Jijin's whole body started glowing. Soul Recovery Seal. Boom.
Thanks for listening.